Ever feel like someone's giving you just enough attention to keep you around, but not actually enough to satisfy your needs? Well, it sounds like you're being breadcrumbed. So breadcrumbing essentially is when someone gives you just enough to keep you as an option, but not enough to make you a choice. What does this do? It messes with your self-worth, it keeps you stuck, it wastes your time. But at the end of the day, I'm here to help you empower yourself to get out of the situation and into something that actually aligns with the future and the goals that you want. And the more time that we allow, the more that we accept these breadcrumbs, the more excuses that we make about this other person, the further away from true connection that we are. So let's talk about what are some signs of breadcrumbing, right? The inconsistent communication. 1 minute they might be texting you all day, maybe you're having all these conversations and then you don't hear from them for 2 weeks. Or maybe they just come around when they want something from you, but it's not actually about building something or any depth. They're just there because it satisfies their needs, right? It's a lot of future talk with not a lot of follow through. We should do this, we should do that. Oh, I'd love to take you here, but yet you can't even get a second date out of this person, but now they're talking about all the holiday travel plans and all the future things and all the fun shit that you guys are gonna do together, but this person's not actually showing up for you. They keep the conversation shallow, right? They text, but they never really go deeper. Or maybe when you're with them, they just bypass it of, oh yeah, well, maybe we could talk about that another time, or I don't really want to talk about it, or yep, sounds crazy. Or they just change the subject. They flood you with attention and then they completely withdraw. So that love bombing coming on really strong, and then all of a sudden it's like a different person. That's that inconsistency that is really anxiety inducing. You're not crazy. That would make anybody feel anxious. And then the last aspect here is they never really define the relationship. So it's a lot of like, I'm just going with the flow, or it feels like you're almost something, but this person's not actually having these conversations with you, even if you bring it up. So let's talk about, why do people breadcrumb? Off the bat, the low-hanging fruit is like, it's a validation seeker, right? So this person gets their validation because they get you, right? So they can have you when they want. They take you off the shelf to play with you when they're ready, and then they put you right back on after. This person might have like some pretty severe avoidance, right? They have the fear of intimacy, but they don't want to be alone. So they breadcrumb you and they keep you around, but when it gets too intimate or too close, no, 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 you stay on your side of the street, I'm on mine. And the last one is it's an ego boost, right? You have to remember, every time you text somebody and you get that message, it's a dopamine release. We are literally holding dopamine reward systems in our hands at all time. So whenever somebody is waiting for the text or the anticipation of, or, oh, I wonder if they're still into me, I wonder if they want to come over and hook up, I wonder if I can get what it is that I want. That's typically why. I used to see the breadcrumbing all the fucking time when I was dating, where it would be like a flame emoji on a story. And when you'd be like, hey, would you want to hang out? They wouldn't answer. We'll see, maybe, I'll let you know. All of those are non-committal and typically really prevalent in people because we want to make the excuses, right? The person that's receiving it, when you're starving for attention and you're like, I'll take fucking anything, or maybe this feels familiar, I have to really earn it. I have to work for love. I have to do things in order to prove it to the people that I'm with. Then something like this will feel more familiar. This could feel like, oh, let me prove it. I don't believe that I'm worthy and deserving of more, so I'll take whatever I can get. And why do we fall for it? Intermittent reinforcement, right? Like when we think about a slot machine, it keeps you hooked. It keeps you coming back. It keeps you wanting more. The dopamine, right? The scarcity mindset. What if I never get any more than this? What if I don't find anybody else? What if I never meet somebody else that's as good or as this? And oftentimes that also is attachment wounds, right? Because when we put and we overconflate and we start to put somebody on a pedestal, or we start to see this bare minimum as being as if we're lucky for it, then what you're saying is they're better than me and I have to do everything I can in order to earn that from them. Now, how do you shut it down? So the first thing I do is I call it out. Like, hey, I've noticed that our connection feels really inconsistent. I'd love to have a conversation with this if you're open to it. And if not, that's cool. I don't want to continue to engage, right? You also get to decide. You can decide if you don't want to continue. You don't even have to leave that door open. You can just say, listen, I don't really want to continue wasting my time. This isn't going anywhere. I cannot tell you how many times I would say that to the low-hanging fruit guys, the guys that were just lazy or not putting effort. And again, heterosexual norms. As a woman that dated men, you could fill in whatever pronoun works for you. But a lot of these dudes usually would get the easy out of like, okay, or like, damn, didn't realize we have to be so dramatic, or some kind of bullshit excuse that, or okay, take care, or just didn't answer. And oftentimes that, if you're going to say anything, you do that for you. You're not doing that for them, and you don't do it to get them to elicit a specific response, or maybe I can change their mind, or maybe I can get them to pick me. I don't want anybody that doesn't want me. I don't want anyone that's not going to reciprocate. I don't want to be with somebody if they're not going to show up in the ways that I'm also showing up. So it's really, really important that you stop engaging with the inconsistency, right? If they text and disappear, don't keep fucking texting them. You don't have to answer just because they do text you out of nowhere, right? They flame the emoji on your story or they comment something because it's a physical thing, right? I hear this all the time of like, well, they commented on my bikini photo. It's like, yeah, they're very visual. So a visual creature is going to look and be like, ooh, hot, I want, but they're not actually thinking beyond that. So if they're just commenting because you look like a snack, well, don't let them munch, baby. You want the whole meal, not just a fucking bite. The other thing I would do here is set a boundary, right? I'm looking for someone who shows up, not someone who just checks in when it's convenient for you. This isn't working for me. I truly wish you all the best. A boundary isn't you need to change. A boundary is that doesn't work for me. Here's how I am going to continue to show up. And the last thing is I need you to focus on you. Prioritize what fuels you? What's getting you out of bed every day? What do you love to do? You have friends, you have family, do you have a workout routine? Do you have your career? Do you have hobbies and passions? It doesn't have to be where you fucking are flying around the country and that's your hobby. It's like, maybe it's something as simple as going on walks on the beach with your dog, right? That's what I used to do with Clemmy when he was alive. Like just being out in nature, challenging my thoughts, doing something outside. I would go to all these workout classes. I was doing different things to evolve who I am as a person. Because remember, someone's an addition to your life, not instead of. And if you're thinking that this is all I'm worth, or I'm never going to find anybody that's going to like me for more, it's like, well, then that right there is the problem. That scarcity mindset, that putting them on a pedestal, thinking that this is all you deserve, right? And I'd like you to ask, how familiar does this feel? Does your nervous system, even just thinking about it, right? Think about somebody that breadcrumbed you, that just, you knew that they weren't satisfying your needs. Did your body feel familiar? Did your body feel like, oh yeah, this is what I'm used to. I have to earn my love. I have to earn my keep, right? Because when you genuinely choose yourself, and this isn't the woo-woo self-love of like, if you don't love yourself, no, get rid of all that shit. When you genuinely choose yourself, when you're not waiting for someone else to choose you, then you are in the driver's seat of dictating what works for you. So if I'm dating somebody, which I have dated my fair share of dudes that would breadcrumb, and it's just because that's the dating world, that's the landscape, right? When you're single for 5 years between relationships, you're gonna have your fair share of people that aren't going to work. And anytime I would ask myself, okay, if this was my best friend, or if this were somebody else that were dealing with this, would I be okay with this? Would I be cool with my friend dating someone who treated them so poorly, who didn't actually show up? Like I remember dating this guy and he loved to just text at 9 a.m, you wanna hang out? And every time I'd be like, hey, you know I'm at work right now, or like I'm doing something. Do you want to hang out later tonight? Would never make the plans. Would always send photos of him so that I would go, wow, you look really good. And I stopped playing the game. I stopped engaging. And I remember once telling him like, hey, this doesn't really feel intentional. I don't know that I want to continue. And he tried to deflect it onto me of like, wow, what, you want to get married already? And I was like, no, I didn't say that, but I'd love for you to actually make a plan and stick to it. Right. And that was my response. And he was just and huffy puffy because I wasn't going to play into it. I'm not going to live. And again, when you know your reality, you know your strength, you know what it is that you are bringing to the table per se. So then stop waiting for someone else to validate that. And it's okay to get curious. You're also allowed to mourn this. You're allowed to be bummed that someone breadcrumbed you. You're allowed to be bummed that they came on one way and then they totally changed. That's two conflicting thoughts. I'm allowed to be bummed and also know that this doesn't work for me, because there's a difference between betting on potential, right? Like, oh, they're a college student, or they're in medical school, or they're doing all this work and blah, blah, blah. Like they have the potential to become something beautiful because I see the drive and the motivation in them, versus I'm betting on potential. This person breadcrumbs me and doesn't make any plans and doesn't actually ask how I'm doing and doesn't really give a shit about me in any other way. But I know that they have potential to become a better version of who they are when I get done with them, or after they date me, or if they dated me and they knew how amazing I was, then they would change. That's where we have to stop and say, well, wait a minute. Are we being realistic about the situation, or are we taking breadcrumbs, acting as if that's the entire fucking meal when we know that your needs aren't satisfied? The more we self-abandon trying to convince ourselves, the more you'll be stuck on this loop, thinking this is all you deserve, but yet fighting with yourself, saying, I think I deserve more, but if I don't actually believe it, then I'm not going to demand it from anybody else.